I'm Drew Breezy, and this is the Comm Center, the show that dissects 911 calls, emergency response video, and audio by two guys who have done both jobs. Coming up, we have someone very special sitting in the guest chair. Fleccas is here, also known for the Fleccas Talks podcast, which is rated the best new podcast of all time. He's going to help us break down an averted school shooting in Mesquite, Texas. We may even discuss what Mesquite, the flavoring, is all about. John is going to continue his 12-part series titled Welcome Home, Soldier, by introducing us to his uncle, who is a Korean conflict veteran and has fake legs and real feet. And our food supply is filled with cancer-causing pesticides. All that and what it means for your weekend on the Comm Center.
City council members have announced their plan to disband the Minneapolis Police Department.
We're calling for defunding the police.
Shootings in New York City have more than doubled this year.
Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who hook up an old-fashioned transparency projector to a Ouija board to confront the great pumpkin about his racist past. I'm John. I'm a 911 dispatcher with 9 years in experience as a 911 dispatcher. Joining us, as always, is our host, former Lieutenant Andrew Baxter of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department in sunny South Florida. I am having a great day. I feel energized with joy. Drew, how are you?
I'm a nervous wreck. We're actually a sheriff's office. Don't ask me what the difference is. I think the people out west all have sheriff's departments. We have sheriff's offices. I know you're somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but
we have a sheriff's bureau here. It makes no sense.
Do you have a bureau of investigation where you are?
We might have a bureau of apprehension, which is kind of a cool name.
Yeah, I think so.
Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It's kind of a badass name for a department because it just says like we're going to get them right in the title.
So agents, like you would have agents in the Bureau of Apprehension, like
we have special agents,
the guys that do stakeouts, like the guys that would sit in the vehicle and when the bad guy shows up.
It's very cool because we're actually still all on Crown Vics and comically oversized radios where they have to listen and then turn their head to talk. And then the antennas are still telescopic. So everything that you love about 70s movies is still true every day right here where I live.
Oh, and they still smoke, which is great.
Everybody smokes. Oh, everybody smokes. Speaking of which, Drew, do you mind if I do the ad read real quick?
Oh, please do.
Now, Drew, you and I smoke for comfort, relaxation, and satisfaction. Well, no cigarette in the whole world satisfies like a Virginia Slim. A hearty mixture of the world's most aged tobaccos, these cigarettes are assembled by the youngest and smallest hands that the law allows. Now Virginia Slim sports a new cellulose filter, so whether you're wearing something special to get your boss to notice you or you're just out on a wholesome night of cross-dressing with the family at Applebee's, your lipstick won't stick. Tobacco is organic, all natural, grown right here in the US of A, and doctors everywhere agree that it's safe for your throat. Virginia Slim's highest in quality, highest in nicotine. Blow the smoke in a woman's face. She'll follow you anywhere. Virginia Slims. Thank you for supporting our podcast, Big Tobacco. We appreciate you. We know that very few else out there do. For all of you who are outraged, please send your outrage to drewbreezy@gmail.com. And also just a reminder, our podcast is brought to you by goodthings.org. It's very hard to know what is good anymore in this world. Trust, love, kindness, all manufactured at goodthings.org. Thank you, Good Things, as well, for sponsoring this podcast. Drew, that's enough banter. I'm done with it. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I'm done with it too. If you want to get a hold of us to tear John a new one for supporting Big Tobacco,
they supported us, Drew.
Yeah,
Korea, World War II, they were here.
You can call us at 848-266-6911. That's 848-COMM-911. Leave us a voicemail. We're going to get to the point where we're back to doing live shows, and you can call us in live, but we're not at that stage yet. So speaking of stage, backstage we have Fleccas, and I'm hoping our producer Dewey, who met Will Smith a couple weeks ago,
my gosh,
is going to bring Fleccas into the fold.
I could also do it. Do you want me to do it? Oh, he's here. Good
Hello,
job,
everybody.
Dewey. Hi.
I'm going to pick up smoking. That was a good ad read. I need a new habit.
Thank you. You know, think about James Dean for a second. Imagine him smoking, leaning up against a motorcycle, refusing to be drafted into Vietnam. If you think that image of cool is not something you want for your kids, then you're a bad parent. I encourage you to buy cigarettes for kids today. They're very disadvantaged. Kids cannot go out there and get cigarettes. Be a responsible adult. Buy a cigarette for a child. Do a kindness for someone in need. I appreciate that. Fleccas, how are you?
Just keep
Pretty
the
good.
Mid-Atlantic states in business, you know?
Yeah, and the only reason kids aren't smoking these days is because of woke, probably.
It
it's
is
all
woke.
woke.
Woke,
Yeah,
stopping them.
it's all
Everyone's
woke
smoking the little vapes and the little jewels. We have to return to tradition.
They're bullshit woke policies, Drew.
It is their bullshit woke policies. Back in my day, we just had filterless, camels, like real men, like real 13-year-old men.
In the 80s, we bit the filters off, Drew. I mean, the government put the filters on there, but we still bit them off.
It's a psyop. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do this case from Mesquite?
Yeah,
The Texas city with the sweet smell of cigarette smoke?
Yeah. Do you, you know what I did notice too about the ad read, John, just not to keep going back to it, like it's our only anchor, but did you say that no lipstick is left behind on the filter? Like, so
it's a new
Zers
cellulose thing.
yeah.
So that when you're wearing lipstick, whether you're out, at Granite City or Applebee's, cross-dressing with your family, or if you're some broad that needs to get her boss to notice her so she can get a raise or get ahead in life.
Right. Okay. Very, very well. Very well done.
Office to get noticed by the boss. That should work.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Fleccas? Here's what I gather. You're an Ivy League guy. You played football at Dartmouth. I know that. And I'm still having my investigative skills aren't honed enough to know whether you were born and raised in New York or down in South Florida. I haven't really mapped that out yet, but maybe you don't want to get too far into that. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. My name is Austen Fletcher. I have the channel Fleccas Talks. I went to Dartmouth, played football there, class of 2012. I was born and raised in New York, Long Island. And then after college, I actually went to New York City and did finance. I had like a Wall Street job for 2 years. And then I quit my job to pursue comedy. I was like the only guy in the whole analyst class to quit besides one guy going to Harvard Business School. So they were like, yo, the only other guy here who's quitting is going to Harvard. I don't know what you want to do in LA. So everyone thought I was kind of crazy, but everyone at work did like me at that finance job. So they ended up giving me my like a true bonus on my way out. Because usually if you leave the analyst class, they don't give you a bonus because you're like voluntarily leaving, but they ended up giving me mine anyway, which was nice. And then I moved to LA. And then 2016 happened and I was trying to get jobs in LA. And then I was a Trump supporter and all my friends in LA were like, dude, if you keep supporting Trump, you're never going to get a job here. Like you're never going to get hired. No one's going to have you on. And at a certain point, I was like, I'm not getting hired anyway. No one seems to be, everyone's job goes to someone's nephew or someone's, friend of a friend. Like I wasn't getting any jobs. So I started doing man on the street videos in February of 2017, where I interviewed Trump protesters and kind of, I was very polite, but I ended up kind of roasting them a lot of times because they didn't know what they were talking about. And that was at a time when there weren't a ton of man on the street reporters. And then since then, a bunch have like leveled up and risen up. And then in 2020, I moved to Florida from LA because of COVID. And I'm now in St. Pete, Florida. And I started my podcast 2.5 years ago. We're at 151 episodes now. We go twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, with my co-host, Richard Ratboy. So the show now is like politics, pop culture. We have like 4 segments: housekeeping, which is kind of like the news of the day and what's going on; cringe of the week, which is like all crazy cringe stuff; urban decay, which is all crimes and whatever happened this week; and then uplifting gold, just so everyone doesn't get too down and too depressed and too black-pilled.
Yeah, I love the fact that you leave a good taste in our mouth at the end of the.
See, we should do that, Drew. We always
really
we get to people depressed and then we run out of time. We completely degrade the human spirit, and they're like, well,
John,
that's all we planned for, so we usually just get out of here.
The victim's dead and the perp got away.
Yeah,
see you next week.
There is no justice in this world. We'll catch you next week, everybody.
Like the police lit him up with bullets. Anywho, yeah, if you look at our skeletal, like our outline, John, we do the exact opposite of what he does. We
Did,
make
and that's
people happy, then we just decline from there, and we leave them on a very low and sad note.
and I know you didn't need this, Fleccas, but if you need any proof that your model is successful, like we do the opposite and we're not successful. So
We tanked. So yeah, man. I really, really enjoy the podcast and the show. You guys should check it out. It's on YouTube called Fleccas Talks. People may remember Fleccas from the spoon.
Yeah.
So was that just a visual trigger for people to remember Fleccas, or was that like an actual audio device?
So there were some levels to it. I picked wooden spoon because I have an Italian mom who used to whack me with a wooden spoon when I was a kid. And I also thought that like the protesters never really had that kind of structure in their life, and that's why they were complaining so much. And it also helped because I just like taped my mic to the spoon. When they were talking to me early on, they wouldn't think I was any threat. They kind of thought I was just some idiot guy with a YouTube channel, which I basically am. They didn't think I was like Fox News or some official, site or program. So it kind of like disarmed them a little bit and gave them more confidence as if they were in like the driver's seat and I'm just some guy with like a spoon with a mic attached to it. And then that kind of helped people like open up and kind of really tell me what they thought because they thought they were here and I was here. And that was early on. Now, if you go to a protest, interview people, everyone's going to suspect that you're trying to get them or selectively edit or make them look stupid. So the glory days, the Wild West days where you can go to an interview and just basically interview anybody and they'll openly tell you all their stupid ideas, those days are kind of done. But there was a prime time there for like 2017 to 2019, basically, where they were just letting it all go online.
The halcyon days of the wooden spoon and Fleccas ruined it for all of us independent journalists that wanted to get out there and interview people at protests. Did you ever feel threatened or in danger at any point when you were doing those?
Not really. In the beginning, I used to always break up the fights whenever there was a fight. I thought it was like good content and funny to like just step in and go, no, we're not doing this. It would just be like kind of funny and it'd be good for the thumbnail, like me in between the two people. I've never been hit. I've gotten pepper sprayed, I've gotten a side of someone else getting pepper sprayed. That was not that bad. I never really felt fully threatened though. Even in 4 years, I not once was like, better get out of here, or like had someone in my face or anything.
Now, I seem to remember during the COVID days when you made it to St. Pete, you kind of did the same thing. You were doing a little bit of man on the street stuff, if I remember right, and people were starting to recognize you a little bit more readily in St. Petersburg. Is that true?
Yep. After a few years, like basically anytime after like 2019 and beyond, anytime I try to do a man on the street, within 5 minutes, someone identifies me and then follows me around. And then anyone I try to talk to, they would say, don't talk to this guy. He's a right-wing troll or whatever. And I would have a harder time getting interviews. But I always had a good excuse and alibi because I would say, well, did I ask you anything crazy? Like all I asked is like what you're doing here, what you're upset about, what you're protesting or whatever. So I kind of had a good alibi and excuse. But yeah, towards the end, it got hard. And I kind of had like a decision to make, like, do I want to keep doing man on the street forever until people get tired of it? Or should I leave when I'm kind of on top and have everyone kind of, burn out versus fade away type of thing? So I figured I kind of leave when I'm on top and then start something new so people will gravitate towards the new thing. And then I can have like a legend status almost for like leaving while things were good. Because if I had kept doing man on the street, eventually it would have been repetitive or that wasn't as good as the last one or old Fleccas is better than new Fleccas. So I didn't even want to do that. I just wanted to leave when times were good and just start something new because I didn't want to do man on the street forever. I did like 100 and something man on the streets. And I wanted to start something new where I could shoot out of my house on a schedule with my best friend, Richard Ratboy. So the evolution to the show, it took a few years. Like we used to just do kind of reaction videos at first to get used to it. And Richard Ratboy hadn't really been on camera at all before the podcast. So then we went from that to audio only, and then audio only to video. So it was a natural transition. It was expedited. We did it pretty fast. We only did 3 episodes of audio only. And I was kind of like to Richard Ratboy, I was like, dude, we got to get this thing on video. Like, I know you never done it before, but you got it. And he's been great. He's like my best friend and co-host, but I've been best friends with him since 2008. I met him in college. We played football together too. So yeah, the show gradually transitioned and went a couple different directions, from Man on the Street to the eventual podcast. But looking back now, the podcast we're in was like kind of the end goal. We can kind of do that for, I think, 50 years. We can just keep cranking them out as long as me and Richard stay friends.
Question for you. You said that the Man on the Street format has kind of died out. The people are suspicious. Certainly that you've got a reputation which precedes you and sort of hampers things. Since you're an innovator, I kind of wanted to run a plan past you. And you can, I have a feeling, since you already figured out your podcast, I feel safe sharing this plan with you. But the whole paradigm of Man on the Street is interesting because you can find out people's true opinions. But now people's defensiveness is up. People are feeling overly political. What would you think about this? I'm not as well known as you, but some people do know me. So in order to get around like the observer bias of my identity, what if I'm wearing a mask, right? And then what if instead of Man on the Street, you kind of get people where they tend to be more vulnerable? I'm talking about the middle of their home at night. All of a sudden I'm there asking political questions, wake them up out of their sleep. What do you think about the Iran nuke deal? Like, do you think I could possibly get some good reactions that way?
Home invasion interviews in the middle of the night. Depends where you do it.
4 a.m.
Florida.
Yeah.
If you do it in Florida, you might get met with some. You might end up on the 911 call show.
Yeah, we all take York State, so yeah.
We don't take risks for our craft, though, right? I mean,
John, I think the only thing that would enhance that better is if you took, if you broke off the take on the wooden spoon and used like a bread knife.
Something,
what I mean?
something else out of the kitchen. I'll just grab something while I'm there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you can like have it in your pocket and kind of come in and like make fast motions to your back pocket to get your mic out.
Yeah,
hey, I'm here to ask you a quick question.
I can even do that when the police arrive, and then I can ask like the police for their take. Like, Drew, do you remember the time I asked the police what they thought about having dispatch right in their CAD, and the cops didn't like me talking to them while they were on their break? This will combine those two things, and so it'll also, because cops annoy me in my job, I'll get to annoy them back. So, dying doing something stupid really just seems like how I'm going to go out. I might as well have a hand on the wheel about it. So
yeah, we actually did we did a pool boy episode that you should check out at some point. It was right there in St. Pete, actually, or maybe it was in Clearwater. But at any rate,
I thought it was a lanai.
It was a lanai, but these guys, people don't know what a lanai is if you're not in Florida. But
it's a form of curtilage, everyone.
It is curtilage.
It's where it's like the porridge where you stir up the berries in it. It's a curtilage for you.
Curtilage is a very Second Amendment word, but but it was right here in our own backyard, and we know that guy died what he loved doing, which is cleaning pools at
fucking pool boy. He was blown halfway to hell, and then more painfully the other half. Doctors say he's still in pain to this day, buried in his grave.
Yeah,
so
and
that's how he would have wanted to go.
It is how he would have wanted to go, and that is actually the first one where we identified the guy as dead, and he didn't die.
He was alive.
He was.
We put up a little picture of him cleaning a pool, and it said "In Memoriam."
Oh man! So reminiscing on the good times. I suspect that also though that. Just being a Florida guy here myself, the air condition may have had a little something to do with transitioning from Man on the Street to me and Richard Ratboy in the AC.
Yeah, it is a lot nicer to just work out of the extra bedroom in the house and have like a weekly schedule, Tuesdays and Fridays. Because otherwise, I was really just like I had a ceiling on the content I could do. I had to always be at a protest, or I had to like get to a newsy thing fast and turn it around with my editing fast so it was timely. And then I kind of just said, if I give myself some structure, Tuesdays and Fridays, I'll talk about whatever's happening in the news. Hopefully I don't run out of stuff, run out of bits. And it's been 2.5 years and we haven't run out of bits yet. And we go twice a week. We used to do once a week. So now we're doing twice a week, and we're chugging along, but we haven't run into any issues finding the content, especially with an election year coming up. Like it'll be a busy year for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think it'll be fruitful. In the digestible clips, by the way, good move. We started doing the exact same thing. So
We're copying you.
yeah, we're definitely copying you on that one.
Sorry,
and I'm copying someone too. I'm copying someone, and then you're copying me. So hey, we're all. That's how it goes. That's how the game is.
I will. When I start seeing you do home invasion interviews, though, you will be hearing from my attorney. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear it on the 911 call. You're like, wait, the guy broke in to interview people at 4 a.m.
But this is John committed to his craft. This is exactly why I wanted to be part of the show with John, because he'll go as far as a home invasion so that we have body cam footage and 911 calls for the next show. Like if we ever run out of content, we'll just do the time he was shot, like in Houston, or the time he was shot in Buffalo. You know what I mean? It's like evergreen. So we got that. He also does a true crime podcast on Tuesdays with his partner Kendra, who he claims is his ex-wife, and they actually killed somebody for an upcoming episode. They murdered him and buried him in the woods.
You guys want to know what the hardest part is about murdering someone? First of all, I know that you think it's like all the muscle and cords in the neck that really prevent strangulation. It's finding a good person to talk about for that whole second quarter of the entire true crime podcast, because it is so easy to find a scumbag on the corner that, like, when you kill them, like, there's nothing to even talk about. They're like he had a meth spoon in his hand, and like his family like got rid of him 20 years ago, and he had nothing going for him. We've got to stretch that out somehow. So it's very hard. We've got to spend a lot of time tracking down. It's not just the killing; it's the stalking, finding good people that are going to make for a good story, and then laying waste to their whole lives and destroying their families. Tuesdays at 8, 7 Central.
Tune in.
7 Central. We're getting ready to start our own complete law enforcement agency, because we have the communication center covered on this podcast. He's got a true crime podcast. He also has a
jail one.
Yeah, correction.
We also have an evidence one. We have a booking room. We have a rating room.
We have a records one.
We have a records room.
Yeah.
There's
reports.
We've got a treasurer's office podcast that's launching this fall that I'm very excited about, that will tell you all about like how, like, if kayaks over a certain length, you have to register them or not. Like, it's going to be that sort of thing.
Wait till we get to the fiscal division podcast, because that's going to be really boring. Especially around tax time, it's going to be very busy. John, what we want to do is avoid all jargon with Fleccas here, because, as you know, he's our first look. We're trying something new with this. What we're trying to do is bring someone into the guest chair, into the fold, that may not have the experience that John and I have, because we can tell you all day long what this is, but as has been noted in the comments of every YouTube video and or nasty phone message we got, we're just cop-splaining everything. We're just making excuses for what the cops do. So we wanted to bring like the outsider's opinion, but we have to balance this this jargon that that we share. So we created a little tutorial. John, can you play the tutorial, please?
10-4. I can play that. And if you don't hear it, we can 10-9 it.
Oh, that means say it again.
Dewey, you actually have to do it. Every time I do something here, it turns to poison. So just go ahead and hit play.
Well, here are some other phrases you'll want to know if you want to be sure to sound hip in the 90s.
Yo, a greeting.
Yo, Curb, what's up?
Clutch the pearls, said in amazement or disbelief.
Well, you know he's married. Clutch the pearls.
Bucked. In the 80s, it was just wasted.
I don't know how many I had, but boy, did I get bucked. I sure felt it the next morning. That was really the worst thing I'd ever done.
I hope you didn't drive home.
No way.
MacGyver, as in the TV show where the impossible is often accomplished.
I can't believe you got off that speeding ticket. What a MacGyver.
Norville, to secretly undermine.
What? I can't believe she stole your job. You've really been Norville.
Black & Decker, or a real tough assignment. You get the analogy, right?
This job is a real grind. It's just a Black & Decker.
Some phrases may be around forever.
Well, look, I gotta run. Peace.
Bye, Tom.
One last word for words of the 90s. You got to remember that hip slang changes rather quickly, so if you want to use any of these phrases, you better use them in a hurry. I mean, think of Bart Simpson. cowabunga is dreadfully out of date, hardly out of style. And you don't want to appear biotic, do you?
Yeah, we don't want to appear biotic, and we don't want you to make you look foolish. So we're gonna make this is a Black and Decker episode that we're just gonna MacGyver our way through.
You know, Fleccas, something that's very Mondo is taking footage that we don't have to pay for and using it to extend the length of our episodes while we relax. So very Mondo approach to podcasting.
Hey, that's what I do too. I always lean into the clips. You gotta. I'm basically a clip curator show at this point.
We learned it from you, Dad. All right, Drew, are we going to do the show?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
We're trying to do the show. It says Mesquite. I bet that's the Mesquite story.
It is, but I can't. I don't have.
I'll do it.
Thank
so
you.
what we do on this show is we have 911 audio and body cam footage. We're going to go ahead and get started with that. I haven't listened to all the 911 audio yet. The reason for that is twofold. Number one, I want to preserve a perfect, authentic reaction as though I am just taking the 911 call. Number two, very lazy on my show prep. I have over 400 shows to do a week. I cannot prepare for all of them. Let's do it. YouTube.
On February 19th, 2024, at 8:49 a.m., an administrator with the Pioneer Technology and Arts Academy Charter School contacted the Mesquite Police Department and advised that there was a student in an office with a handgun, refusing to put it down.
Here's the 911 call.
Mesquite 911 Buchanan, what's the address of your emergency?
3200 Old. I'm the assistant principal. No student just pulled a gun. I need someone here now. I am with him. He's fine. I'm calming him down. I need to get someone here now.
Okay, I'm getting him started. Where is he right now?
He's in my office in room 151 in the building. I'm putting the building on lockdown.
Okay, does he still have the gun?
Yes, he does.
Okay, what is he doing right now?
He's just standing. He won't put the gun down. I'm not going to leave you.
No. You don't. No. Look, put it down. Put it down. No. Put it down. Put it down, Donna. Donna, put it down.
Please, Jason.
Put it down. No. Put it down. You trust me. Put it back on the floor. Put it back on the floor. Back on the floor. Put it back on the floor. Put it back on the floor. Put it back on the floor.
Administrators initiate.
Go for it.
Drew, do you mind if I have some 911 takes from this 911 audio?
Please do.
If I'm taking a call from a principal or other school official who sounds that scared, my asshole is clenched tighter than a fish's asshole. Oh my God, that's scaring the shit out of me. I have to say, she's you hear a lot of typing going on. The principal's telling the kid to put the gun down. The dispatcher might be feeling a couple of different things. Number one, a little bit of vapor lock, like, holy shit, I had always hoped this would always happen somewhere else and not to me, but now it's happening to me. That I have to get everybody there. She's probably waving her arms around. Her face probably looks like this. Fight, flight, or flight, or freeze, or whatever. She wants to get all the units going. She's creating a call for service on her computer that says, weapons violations, putting in the school address. It's going to get everybody's attention. Everybody's going to start going there. Unfortunately, the caller in this position is stuck in almost a hostage negotiation situation, right? She's hostage. The kid themselves is hostage. So you think of him as sort of like a barricaded subject. Everybody else in the school is kind of in danger. You sit here and as you listen to this and you're trying to work, you're also listening and you're visualizing what this must look like, right? This kid's standing there. He's got a gun in his hand. People are pleading with him to put it down. Maybe he's not raising it. Maybe he's not pointing it at anyone. But it's almost scarier because you have no idea what he's going to do next. Just hearing the terror in her voice, that's going to be something that both scares you as an 911 dispatcher, but also encourages you to really focus into the best work of your career, because it's now or never, and no one else is going to make this happen but you. There's no one else that you can kick this to, no one that you can appeal to. You can't tell the caller to dial 911, even though I have always wanted to do that and have that be someone else that answers. But a scary situation, Drew, and unfortunately it's one that we're facing all the time. This didn't get widespread headlines, I'm guessing because the body count relatively low. You did say averted earlier in the show. But even in my own jurisdiction, we had a school shooting in which a principal was shot. And I don't know if either one of you ever heard about that, because it's just so common, right? It has happened somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, wherever the hell I live. We had a school shooting where a principal was shot and a school was evacuated. It's so common now that unless you're rising to Sandy Hook levels, you're just not going to make the news cycle. Drew or Fleccas, your takes on that 911 audio?
Go ahead, Fleccas.
That was intense. You think about that principal, and it's like they have so many things they need to deal with, and then this happens. I'm sure they have like protocol or things you do when something like that happens, but when it actually happens, and hearing like the fear in her voice, that's crazy. I actually have a question as like as guys are experts in dispatching. When they call in like that and she's getting the info, what she's doing on the computer is doing her dispatch work. Are there people heading there pretty much as fast as she can get it in? Like, she doesn't need to get off with them and call someone else. Obviously, it's all on the computer like that.
What else is happening is that there's other people in the dispatch center. I don't know how big Mesquite is, or I don't know if it's part of a big agency that dispatches, but typically for something like this, like for me, I work at a very small agency. If I'm taking a call about a kid with a gun in a school, I'm going to get the attention of my coworkers, whether it's waving or throwing a stapler at the back of their head, but I'm going to try to stay on the phone, not have any of that audio go through. But even last night, I had a call where there was a domestic in progress at a house. My partner was working on another case that was less important, and I had to get his attention. So I hit mute on the phone, right? So there's some things that are not being heard on this recording where I just said to him, can you get the cops going, please? And so he'll jump on the radio and say, any unit position you needed for a domestic at this house. He'll take the information that I've typed out on this screen. It's just an information sharing type, almost like a master situation display that explains everything that all police are doing, what case they're on, what they're located, who called it in, all the pertinent details. It's all very well organized. And when I update something, everyone can see it, and it's also in police cars that can see it. So very often we call this jumping calls, but a police officer will see that a bad call is coming in, and they'll start going to that before we even dispatch them. So very often police officers are already going, but generally there's no reason to wait on anything like this. That's where teamwork comes in, and people are already going in. And it's super frustrating. And this is a great question, because particularly on a medical, I will start asking questions, how old is the patient? What are they conscious, alert, and breathing? How long ago did this happen? Are they taking any drugs, any alcohol? And I'll start asking all these questions. And the callers will get irate because what they most want is help, and their frustration is coming out at me. And I'll have to explain to them, like, none of these questions slow anybody down. They're already going and getting the ambulance. But before they get there, I want EMTs, I want paramedics, and I want police officers to know exactly what they need to do before they get there so that they're best informed. Drew.
Just fucking get someone here. Remember we did the Kid Rock 911 call? I mean, like, that's exactly how everybody thinks. So it's a great question, but it's a foregone conclusion that all that information is being put in and it's being dispatched. And like John said, somebody's waving like, hey, take a look at this. You know what the benefit of this call, what we try to do is incorporate most of the 911 calls for an incident. You can tell this is a single 911 call. This is probably a principal that was dealing with the student and found the gun or something to that effect. But in a 911 center, especially if there's only 2 or 3 911 operators working at the time, in a major shooting like Marjorie Stoneman Douglas or Sandy Hook or whatever, not to minimize, but you're going to get hundreds of Uvalde, the same thing. You're going to get hundreds and thousands of phone calls flooding in, and you only got 3 people. So in this instance, you could tell she was the initial caller. There may be somebody else calling from the front office as part of the protocol, and that starts to gobble up resources really quick. And then the other thing to think about is, in all of that haystack, where do you find the needle that actually has the right information? It just so happens that she had the right information because she was the one that made the call. We lucked out on this one, I think. But you'll also see in a second here, and it's been my experience as a cop, there is a certain invincibility that school administrators have, especially charter school or private school administrators, because they feel they have a lot of control over the students. And they don't realize when a student has a gun, they're not being a student at that point. They're just kind of off the rails. And this is kind of where the cops come in. You know what I mean? So, you'll see what I mean in a second. There's a little bit of a kind of like a look. He's in there and he's just got the gun. I'm not taking away from her. I'm 1,000% convinced that she was in a sheer panic, and she stayed very calm and gave the best information she could. But you'll see what I mean.
Fleccas, quick question for you before we move on. Just a quick hot take. There was a movement a couple years ago. It was heavily favored in wherever the hell I live. The idea of sentinels or armed teachers, a certain teacher who receives extensive training and carries a firearm in a school to respond to an active threat like this. To be honest, I think it would be scary to be a teacher and to always look at your students as be someone that you potentially have to blow away to save the rest. But what do you think about that? Generally, what do you think about the idea of having a designated armed teacher in a school?
I love that idea. I support that idea. I've actually done man on the streets with that same line of questioning. Like, should this happen? Should we do that? And I actually interviewed an old lady teacher, and I was like, would you feel more comfortable if you had someone in the building that you knew had a gun that could protect, first responder type of thing? And she said, well, I'm 68 years old. I don't think I could work a gun. And like, that's kind of like the easy answer of like, well, teachers should be teaching. They shouldn't have to be responsible for this, but you can't find one teacher who will go, I'll do it. Right. I'll maybe a little pay increase or a certain credit or some more time off. It's like, my high school, all the gym teachers were police officers or former police officers. All the football coaches, same thing. So it's like, it's easy to hear that idea and go, oh, like Miss Betty, the math teacher, she can't handle a gun. That's crazy. But you could find one person pretty much in every school who probably owns guns already, is familiar, and can say, yeah, I'll take that responsibility. I'll keep it in my office. I'll keep it locked up. I'm 100% for that. I think every school should have a couple, at least a few guns in it, in the right hands, even if it's a resource officer or something like that. But I like the idea of arming capable teachers.
Yeah, I mean, it's the notion alone. Like when the Federal Air Marshal Program kicked off after 9/11, everybody gives TSA shit for, because we had to take our shoes off and you couldn't bring shampoo and all that other stuff. But essentially what they did was they took a lot of Department of Corrections, Federal Department of Corrections employees, and made them Federal Air Marshals, and they were sent to assimilate. They're not going to get involved when Tiffany Gomez, sees an alien in the back of the plane. They're there for the last minute kind of, oh shit, like he actually has razor blades in his shoes or whatever. So just the notion alone probably abated a lot of terrorist threats. Like just the fact that the terrorists know that there might be a Federal Air Marshal on this flight, there maybe not. What about the same thing in the school? Like, and I'm sure, by the way, everybody always eyes the gym teacher. God rest the soul of the gym teacher down there, Aaron Fleiss, down in South Florida, that was killed in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas trying to protect people. But it's like the unsuspecting one. So even if you got the kids guessing, even if you have everybody talking like, I bet it's Miss Miller. I mean, she drives a Jeep. You know what I mean? Like even if you I'll bet they're gonna think. At least like somebody here is going to get me.
Or even if you had a sign, this building is protected by, armed and whatever, by armed security, like that, the sign alone people will go, okay, that school has guns in it. Maybe pick a different target. Like I'm totally with you. And I think it's like a cop-out answer when people say that we shouldn't do that. Because schools, it's not a war zone. Kids shouldn't have to be in fear. But it's like, wouldn't you be in less fear knowing that there's good guys with guns in case the worst possible thing happens? Like right. In my high school, I went to a Catholic high school. We had retired cops who were concealed carrying guns under like a suit jacket. No one was scared of them. No one was thinking, oh, this guy's going to start shooting us. It's like that was actually more security. It felt better seeing that guy.
Yeah, he rip it out from his shoulder holster.
Exactly. Good luck.
In my school, I went to kind of an inner city school on the East Coast of Virginia. It was kind of a well-known bad area. Case in point, I went to the same school district as Michael Vick, well known for his dog abusing, dog fighting thing. it was a different culture for us. For example, like at my school, we only went to state for boys wrestling and for dog fighting. I think all the students in my school were carrying a gun. So we all felt pretty safe, to be honest. The only thing that really scared me in my school growing up was my earth science teacher, Mrs. Cheney. After she would teach the lesson, she would sit at her desk, put her feet up on the desk, and then she would pick her teeth with an oversized buck knife and eye the students. So I think that was sort of the safest situation, and I was blessed to kind of grow up in that environment. Drew, let's go back to the Mesquite case if you're ready.
Sure.
A lockdown of the campus. The first officer arrived on scene within 2 minutes of receiving the call. An additional officer arrived quickly, and the two officers located the office and observed.
I think that's probably readily and quickly overlooked. The first being, man, they have to institute an entire lockdown of that school, and that happened pretty quick. Also, though, somebody got there within 2 minutes. I mean, I think that is maybe testament to the geography of the city, because you're not going to find that in a big city. Even if they got there in 6 minutes, that would be good response time, unless there's like a resource officer on the premises.
An administrator standing in the doorway of the office speaking with the student. The administrator advised officers that the student was sitting on a couch and had placed the handgun on the floor at his feet. No one else was in the room.
Body cam time.
Is he in here?
He's in here. He still don't move. It's on the floor in front of him. He still don't move. Jadon.
If you can't hear her, she's saying she's standing. For those that are listening and not watching, she's standing in the doorway. She's the only thing in between the officers and the kid with the gun. And she's describing, look, he's got the gun at his feet there. She's standing. She's in the way in essence. I get what she's doing. She has the rapport with this kid. But again, this is where it gets to the invincibility of like, that boy's not, like he's harmless. He's not going to do anything. Well, you wouldn't think that he would bring a freaking Rossi to school either. Listen, I'm not bashing her. I think she did a wonderful job, but it's just, there is probably in that moment, and I'll just, full disclosure, I've run into this on the job where school officials are gods of that school universe. And like, you don't belong there, and anything you do, they're going to have a say in, that's the way they feel. But this is a grave situation. If this kid gets out with that gun and starts plucking people left and right, I mean, who's going to be at fault here? You know what I mean? So.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And then, her being in the way, exactly. So he's right behind on the other side of this door, I'm assuming?
Yeah, you'll see in about 2 seconds.
Be still, don't move, and I need you to trust me. Do you understand?
I mean, she's in the right. She says, be still, and I want you to trust me. Do you understand?
She's doing a good job.
Right. And the kid is like, okay. I mean, but you never know. Like, how many times has this kid brought a gun to school? Like, so obviously he's having a bad day. Maybe he doesn't want to listen to his principal today.
It's on the floor between his legs.
I feel bad for her. She's scared.
What's going on today, buddy?
Well, not only is she scared, I mean, think of where she stood. She just stood with that wall kind of blocking,
She stood in the fatal funnel, Drew. She stood in the place where cops get shot.
Well, yeah, in the doorway, and then she just stood on the other side of that inbox, which means all the guy has to do is shoot through the drywall, which is another situation like what happened in Uvalde. But it just, drywall is not going to stop that bullet. It's going to go straight through. It's not like he can see where she is. But
we would like to help you. That's why we're here.
Again, these guys are heroes. I'm not picking on my fellow cops here, but it's such a surreal 2024 when you're like trying to reason with somebody and talk to them in that kid language, but you got a fucking Glock with a light on it. You know what I'm saying? Like you have this Glock that you're ready to just bring up and shoot at any point. And you're like trying to like, hey buddy.
Yeah. He's sweet talking to someone he's absolutely prepared to kill at this moment.
Yeah. Hey, you have bad grade, homework. I mean, like it's surreal. Like,
is anything upset you today? Can you listen to me closely? Please do not reach for that gun, okay?
All right, for those listening, that hum or that buzz is his body cam reminding him that it's recording. But tell me, if you're just a casual observer or casual citizen and you're holding a gun and you're looking at a kid trying to negotiate with a kid who's got a gun between his legs, and that buzz, that buzz goes off, it doesn't scare the shit out of you. You know what I mean?
I honestly thought it was a duck call and that the officer was doing that to alleviate some pressure off the situation. It's what I would do.
It's right. It's a good
Trying
thing
to lighten the mood.
Right. It's a good thing he didn't revert to his duck hunt skills, his Nintendo skills.
We don't want anything to happen to you or anyone else. Can you do that for me? What has upset you today? Maybe we could talk about it.
Officer spoke calmly with the student for approximately 4.5 minutes,
4.5
attempting to
minutes.
de-escalate the situation and end the incident peacefully.
And Drew, in order to negotiate with him, you've got to be willing to do that indefinitely, or until some other way of gaining tactical advantage over the situation. Something else I have done, and I've mentioned it on this show plenty of times, is that I'm a hostage negotiator. But when something like that's going on and you're trying to talk to someone, you're trying to build a rapport with them, and he's not answering you at all, your tension is extremely high the entire time. You have no indication whether or not tension is rising or falling. That's one of the biggest things, whether it's in a barricaded subject situation, a hostage situation, or just student with a gun. Is the stress rising or falling? He's doing everything he can. Time's on his side. We hope that the kid will get to calm down, regain that psychological equilibrium, or we'll be able to change the situation to where some of their tactical means can be used to take control of the kid. Obviously, you don't want to have like a sniper outside the window just taking him out, particularly if there's nobody in the room with the kid. But sometimes it is a stalling tactic, and he's compared to taking the life of a child when it wouldn't be necessary to do. You've got to be willing to stand there and talk for 12 hours if that's what it takes.
Oh God, yeah. Fleccas, any questions or any?
No, I noticed in the last body cam, you can also see the police officer's got a wedding ring on. So, just wanted to point that out. It's a very high stakes situation. He obviously has a wife and probably family, and he's dealing with this. Why wouldn't you just kind of flashbang him? Is that not an option?
I thought the same thing. I love carrying around flashbangs.
Oh, okay.
Just throw it in there. He's scared. You go in there, you pop him.
Or just tackle him, kick the gun away. If the gun's on the floor, I would just flashbang, but I don't know anything.
I'm telling you that's all of that is going through. Okay, so I'm trying to reason this out. If I'm standing there with the gun negotiating with this kid and my handgun is out, I know that there's somebody to my left because I just happen to know from the body cam, but the computer in your mind is working at about 80% right now because just like John said, you're negotiating with this guy, so you're not getting any feedback. Now, the less feedback you get, the more the tension starts to rise because you're like, fuck, I'm going to have to do something. This is getting a little bit more urgent. Am I able to dive from here and, or just like some miraculous like leap and my foot lands on the gun so he can't get to it? Can I flip the lights off? Can I do, you know what I mean? Like, so you're processing about 300 things at once. And then of course you got the guy next to him who's got a rifle, as we find out, doing the same thing. They're trying to figure out what's the point of no return here? I'm sure they wish they had flashbangs. For this reason,
do cops have flashbangs, or is that not even an option? What's like a flashbang equivalent or something, or anything like that can just stun somebody and make them go
tactical units
blind?
have flashbangs. Generally, like normal patrol officers won't. Perhaps
patrol just has the duck call.
They just have duck calls. But if
they don't work,
right? They have one of those
slide whistle,
those whistles. But it really distracts. You would think, but it really distracts them. No, the tactical units. Now, I will say, like, there are people that have additional duties, like on that are part of like protest units or whatever. They're going to have less lethal ammunition, and they may have some form of like smoke grenade or flashbang or whatever, but the typical patrol officer is not going to have that. It's plus it's a fire hazard. So, you don't want to you don't want to Waco your way out of that for one kid. But I mean, when you can talk to him, I guess the thought is there. I mean, the notion is there. Anything you can use to distract him, or at least just get him to walk away from where the gun is. And at that point, he's going to be,
or like maybe let a dog in and then close the door on him. And then listen.
Yes.
And then like, okay.
Maybe he'll pet the dog, and then if you hear it get rowdy, then you give the dog the order in German to attack, and the dog knows. Dog just takes out the kid. I think you should probably hire this guy as a SWAT consultant. It seems like he's got some good ideas.
I think he's got the ideas. He's an idea guy.
All right. Should we keep going, Drew?
I think so.
All right, let's keep going. I'll allow it.
Okay. We just need you to step away so we
bang, bang, bang. I did that for YouTube. So I did that for YouTube. I know that sounds exactly like gunshots, so I don't want to fool the algorithm too much. But I took the gunshots out. I saw somebody else do it, so I think
you should put in duck calls next time.
Maybe I will. Bang.
Shots fired, shots. Hey.
Oh my God.
So here's what it looks like.
Do you need anything right now? No?
We just need you to step away from the gun, buddy. You're not in trouble? Okay. We just need you to step away so we can...
Bang, bang, bang.
Shots fired, shots. Hey.
That's awful.
That was me again.
At this point, Drew, I mean, he's shooting at you. There's very little that, in my opinion, that you can actually do if he's gonna. Yeah, he's reaching for it. He's at this point. At this point, this kid's a dead man. Like, I don't want to be insensitive or whatever to his age or whatever he's going through, but you reach for a gun. You got two cops right there. There's no reason for him to be alive at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a tactical advantage here. The officers have chosen the steel door frame and then the door itself. But actually that becomes a hindrance. You'll see in a second. But this is where the criticism grows. And, not to get too tall on the soapbox, this is how politicians use both sides of the argument, because one side is going to say, look, they just killed a defenseless poor little boy. The other side's going to say, look at those brutal cops. You know what I mean? Or they're going to say, like, you need to elect me to protect you from bad cops like this. And then the other side's going to say, look, it's lawlessness in this country, and you need me. You need to, we're all just being fucked with, basically.
How many rounds are these cops supposed to take before it becomes fair for them to fire back?
I don't know.
Like you said, Fleccas, this guy's got a wedding band on, but even if he didn't, even if he had, the only thing he had waiting for him was a studio apartment bereft of furniture and like an angry voice calling him a coward as he went to bed every night, and a wild turkey and a frozen Hungry Man dinner in the freezer. Even if he's got nothing waiting for him at home, there's no reason why he deserves to take a single shot in deference to this child. This child is picking up a gun. He's making a choice. He's choosing violence. And this is the real world, unfortunately. I hate to say that we have to acquaint our children with this now, but we do. We have to say, you touch a gun, you wake up in the morning, you pick up a gun, and you decide to take it with you, you're choosing death, because someone is going to take you out. And whether it's a police officer saving your classmates or something else, but we've got to teach kids that this is the reality. We teach them like about magma and stuff. That's pretty real. I think this is more real.
Stalactites.
So yeah, stalactites, magma. I think 6th grade, we teach them rules of engagement for police officers. You touch a gun, you're going to get cooked, son. That's how it is.
Yeah. That's fair.
Let's
go.
I mean,
they're playing fucking Call of Duty. I have a 10-year-old stepson. He plays
see, kids will get it better than you
all
think.
The time. I mean,
they'll get it. Let's keep going.
That's slowed and zoomed. So you see
the office door began to close. An officer grabbed the door handle, pulling it open to maintain a visual inside the room. As the officer pulled the door open, the suspect can be seen on CCTV, now standing and facing the officers with the handgun raised towards officers in a shooter's stance.
That right there is what, I hate to even put it in these terms, but the city attorney or the attorney for the agency, this picture right here is worth probably about $5 or $6 million. Because
for those of you listening, we're looking at a boy in a classic James Bond gun barrel stance. He's shooting through the open door of an office. On either side, a police officer, scared shitless, but withdrawing at the sounds and sights of gunfire. getting ready to return it. This picture says so much about what our society is and our cultural rot. What's gone wrong? Where are the fathers? Where are the involved parents? There's just so much moral decay and spiritual decay, and it's really terrible. Fleccas, I don't mean to make too much out of it. Like Drew said, a picture being worth 1,000 words, but when you look at this, like, what does it do to you to see this in our schools?
Yeah, obviously it's horrible. But it's like this photo existing now hopefully will exonerate any sort of idea of police not acting correctly or police doing the wrong thing. You think that's accurate, right? Like this basically, like no one's getting in trouble for that. So which is like, that's what I kind of worry about in situations like this, is police getting incorrectly cracked down on for behavior when they were doing the right thing, and then discouraging police from protecting themselves and others in the future because of that idea of, well, if I do it wrong or if it's not what it looks like, then I could get in trouble. That's what happened with, I think, George Floyd, obviously in 2020.
Yeah.
And then it just makes police like second guess themselves. And then once you're second guessing yourself, it's at your own expense, because that half second that you're thinking, should I shoot him? Is he really pointing it at me? And, you know, that'll end in people dying. So it's a relief to see this evidence that backs up the police in this situation.
The thing about this that makes it unique, though, Fleccas, is that this is caught on CCTV cam. So I don't think the body camera would have caught the same thing. So this is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They're not even facing in the door. Yeah,
my beef with the public is like they're going to second guess this all day long anyway. And they clamored for body cameras. Well, like, we got to, like, you're just a bunch of brutal thugs. You just go hunt unarmed black kids and blah, blah, blah. And then when you present them with the evidence, like, no, people are dicks and people are actually shooting cops at an alarming rate and killing us. And here's your visual evidence. Most of the time, like a good majority of the time, people are like now at the point where they're critical of the body camera footage itself. They're not saying, well, this is a good shoot. They're saying, like, I'll give you a classic example. The Lakewood church shooter, there was an officer that was hidden in an alcove, so to speak, as the shooter was traversing the opening where the officer was. I see nothing but, you know, littered all over the place, even in conservative, the conservative influencer pages. All the comments are like, why is that officer hiding? Why are you like, fuck you. You do it. You know, let me see how you do it, first of all. And second of all, that you know, she, him, whatever, walked in, and I'm not degrading the fucking trans person, but they walked in with the intent to kill a lot of people, and they neutralized that threat within moments of that person walking in there. And the two biggest criticisms out of that whole thing, or the two major news stories out of that whole thing, were, well, the Houston Police Department spent all their time talking about pronouns. They fucking answered a question in a press conference. What do you want them to do? And then, of course, the guy, the officer hiding in the closet. Who wasn't hiding? The thing was, the shooter was traversing the opening. It's best to stay concealed until you can get a good shot. There was some crossfire issues. So absent this CCTV, who knows? And let me just obliterate the elephant in the room. If this were a little black kid and he were killed, you know, spoiler alert, the kid wasn't killed. I don't know that it would go this way. I don't even know that this CCTV video would make it out. And that's the other issue with the hesitancy of the officer. It's not just necessarily taking bullets to the chest or whatever. That's part of the job. What isn't part of the job is, why are you fucking arresting me for protecting this principal and every other kid in this school? You're actually throwing me in jail, taking away me from my wife and my livelihood and from my kids, and depriving my freedom in the name of what you're calling justice, which is actually just revenge. So I'm glad that this photo exists. I'm glad that you acknowledge that, Fleccas, but I think it speaks to a greater problem, especially around election years. And
then even now in society too, it's like there's this backwards thing where police used to be revered and respected, and now there's this backwards thing in society where like the criminals are prioritized.
Yes.
We're seeing it with like the no bail and stuff, criminals being let out. You know, we only arrest people if they steal a certain over $900 worth of stuff. So it's just like we're in this world now where the average Joe we're looking out for is actually like a criminal with a huge rap sheet for some reason. So everything is flipped on its head, where now police are the bad guys, even though they're the only ones who can help us. And then the good guys who deserve like a little extra attention are the criminals. I totally agree with what you said.
It's pure urban decay. And then of course, you know, as you said on your show the other day, the FBI put out that tweet or their thing on the Instagram, and they're talking about how they're doing crime reduction measures. And they show two like college, prim and proper white girls stuffing, like bras into their, like, that's the shoplifting problem. That's not the shoplifting problem.
Well, Drew, by margin, you don't understand. By margin, clothing has some of the smallest margin over there.
Yeah, it's a slim margin. I get it.
Yeah.
But so it takes a lot to get to $900. I had a buddy, by the way, great cop, great Marine. He was a drill instructor, if that makes sense to you, who ended his career chasing a guy out of a dollar store. He ended up getting hit by a car. The cop did. The detective did. And I always said that guy would have had to have at least 300 items on him. Like he needed to be $300 or higher just to make that a felony anyway. So there's other hazards involved in that.
So he would have had to have up to 5 cans of baby formula in a Joe Biden economy.
Yeah, and a gallon of gas, maybe.
And a gallon of gas.
So we'll finish up here.
At this time, 3 officers fired at the suspect.
Bang, 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 bang. That was gunshot.
Bang, bang. Look at that. Kid's still coming at him.
He's still rising.
Yep.
So here's
the office door again closed, and officers continued negotiating through the closed door, advising the suspect to exit the room. The suspect stayed inside the room until complying with commands to exit, where he was then taken into custody. The suspect had an injury to his leg sustained from the shooting. Mesquite Fire Department treated the suspect and transported him to a local area hospital. The police department coordinated with school administrators to enact the reunification plan. The campus was searched as the remaining students and faculty were escorted from the building by officers. The suspect was medically released later that evening and transported to Dallas County Juvenile Detention. No other injuries were reported. The suspect was charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault against a public servant, as well as exhibition of a firearm. In total, 3 officers fired 19 times over the 2 threats encountered by the suspect. A Rossi .38 special revolver possessed by the suspect was recovered by investigators. Subsequent interviews with witnesses revealed that the armed suspect came to the school with intentions of harming others. The suspect was identified as a 16-year-old male student whose identity is being withheld due to his juvenile status. The officers involved were an 8-year veteran, a 5-year veteran, and an officer that recently transferred to the department with 5 years of service with another agency.
That's the school to prison pipeline for you, Fleccas.
Yeah, exactly.
And so have these guys already been cleared of this officer involved shooting since the kid did get hit in the leg? This is the major downside, right? Like, I know all of us here are all in an echo chamber of agreement that good job to those cops for wounding the child, not killing him, protecting everyone else is kind of like the best of all possible situations when the kid reached for the gun. But now these police officers have to live with this looming over them, not just the feeling of I shot at a kid or I shot a kid or I had a kid point a gun at me, which is going to shatter your peace of mind forever. It's going to hang over your career, but now you're going to be wondering, am I going to get sued? Is there going to be some sort of investigation? I mean, you never know anymore. I always invoke this name, but Ben Darby was cleared by his department. His department stood up for him. You just said you did what was right by your training. You saved the lives of those officers. You're cleared. You're good to go. And then a year later, the county prosecutor came after him for a bad shot. So you could get the all clear. You can have every statute, every precedent behind you, every code in your job, everything that you know when you're training. And in this day and age, it could still be pulled out from underneath you and your life could be thrown into chaos. You could go to prison for doing a justifiable thing. So, I guess thoughts and prayers for these police officers who had to do this terrible but just thing. And I hope that they're getting some peace of mind out of it. And I hope nothing ever comes out of this in terms of civil litigation or even criminal litigation. I hope that they're good to go. Drew, Fleccas.
Yeah, what's the process after these police were involved in a shooting like this? How soon do they return to the front lines, and like what's their immediate action after? Like what do they have to go through?
Most have a protocol where you can't touch them, you can't talk to them until like within 48 hours. So you kind of need time to decompress from the traumatic stress standpoint. A lot of major and progressive agencies have this 48-hour rule. I'll tell you where I worked in Hillsborough County a few years back when prosecutions started becoming the flavor of the day. We had a full staff of attorneys, and their job is obviously to protect the agency or whatever. And what our administration said very openly in the presence of our legal staff, look, if you guys are in a shooting, I can't guarantee anymore. I used to be able to just say, look, you know, let it work through its process. And if there's no negligence or anything else, you're fine. But we can't say that anymore because there's these rogue prosecutors that are just trying to either set an example, set an agenda, make a name or whatever. So what my agency decided to do was they would commit an attorney from our agency to represent you. They would detach from the legal department, and they would not discuss anything because of attorney-client. And until you could get an attorney in place, or if you wanted to use them as your representative, that's it. So to answer your question, 48 hours, they go in for an interview. Usually the state attorney or district attorney is present for the interview. They have their own questions. A lot of agencies now go to an outside agency to come in and do the investigation. For instance, here in Hillsborough County, if there's any kind of death investigation involving somebody in custody, Florida Department of Law Enforcement comes in and they do the investigation. That way there's no alleged impropriety, but that's pretty much flavor of the day. And I happen to know someone that's involved in a situation right now, and they've been sitting basically in a non-duty position where they're being paid as a cop, waiting for FDLE and the state attorney's office to make a decision on a very what seems to be a very cut and dry case, and they've been there for at least 3 months. So when you're already manpower short, I have no problem taking your time and doing a thorough investigation. I have no problem with any investigative or any prosecutor looking into this. Like, go ahead and put it in front of the grand jury if you think that that's going to make you feel better. If there are questions, but don't do it just for sport. Don't do it just to because it's open season on cops. So it could take forever for them to come back. Or I have also seen cases where 2 to 3 weeks, boom, you're back. You have to be cleared, by the way, but not only by the legislative, by not legislative, but the district attorney or assistants by the state attorney. You're going to be evaluated. Your a psych evaluation. It would be a pretty traumatic thing, in my opinion, if they plugged that kid. I think that might, that would definitely affect somebody that would affect both of those officers for the rest of their lives. And here's where this show comes in, because I always want to include them. That would affect the dispatcher for the rest of their life, because they feel like they marched those guys into that kid's death. You have no idea how involved or wrapped up these dispatchers are in the call. They rarely get any closure. They rarely get any end result. It's not like the cops go up there or call them and say, hey, this is what happened. But it's on their head. It's on their heart. They're like, man, if God forbid one of those officers was shot and killed, the dispatcher would feel it just as bad as all the other officers.
That's true. We would feel bad for the kid too. I mean, we recognize where blame is to lie, but I don't think anyone in this country feels the situation where if a kid gets killed in a school, that that we feel good about that, even if it's something that was ultimately exactly what needed to happen. So 911 dispatcher would feel bad for that just because it's a bad outcome. We always want our police officers to go in and bravely intervene and be heroes and have everything turn out okay. But, the real world doesn't work like that, right? Sometimes the toast lands butter side down and things go wrong and things go bad and kids get killed. And that's just something that you have to carry with you, that there was a situation that went bad. And we as 911 dispatchers lack so much control. We go into these the showers basically our simulation chamber every day. We go in there and like, how could yesterday have turned out differently if I'd hit those tones earlier, if I had talked to this unit before then, if I had done this, that, or the other thing slightly differently, would it have affected an outcome? If a different dispatcher handled it, would it be different? If that dispatcher that handled the call and it went badly, if I had done it, that's such a huge thing. Whenever a call goes bad and it happened to one of my coworkers, I think to myself, well, if I had been here at work, if I had switched shifts or something, if I had some reason to be in the chair when the phone call came in, and it's all just because we want the situation to be different. We don't want kids to be dead in school. We don't want officers to be dead, but we place a lot of blame on ourselves, and ultimately we have like the least amount of control over the situation. So I don't know if there's like a psychological corollary there, that the less control you have, the more you blame yourself. I have no idea.
Do you have any final thoughts, Fleccas?
No, it was intense. And that's why I'm liking your guys' show. It's so important to see the human side of this, because a lot of times if the media gets to it first, it'll just say officer shoots student in school, or, school shooting. And they'll try to like go into their narratives that the guns are the problem, school shootings are the problem, cops are using force too fast. And just seeing the actual evidence, like the source videos that not 90% of people aren't going to ever look up themselves, it kind of humanizes the police and brings you back to what's going on. Everyone's trying their best. Stressful situation, ugly situation. It was, you can't look at it and say, oh, the cop should have been braver or not used his gun or whatever. Like, I think that you guys are bringing such good information to the public with your show and how you do it, because this clip alone I've always been very pro police, but this clip alone has made me even more hyper aware of how human these people are and how much they're trying to do the right thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think probably the most illustrative case is, if you ever want to look it up sometime, we have an episode on it, but the case of Najee Seabrooks in Paterson, New Jersey. The Paterson police ended up being basically taken over by the federal government for their response to a man barricaded in a bathroom, completely high on drugs. They talked to him for hours and hours and hours, pleaded with him, evoked the memory of his young daughter, asked him to come out peaceably. They had brought in multiple members of his family to talk to him, to just put down the weapon and come out. Ultimately, he charged out of that bathroom after several hours. He charged at police officers with a knife. They were forced to shoot him, and they marched in the streets in memory of Najee Seabrooks, and they made him into a Diet George Floyd, a victim of police brutality, when police officers stood outside that bathroom, basically begging him, pleading with him to peaceably end that engagement. And the news was completely inflammatory about it. So I think you're right. They definitely pick out their cases that choose their narrative, and it remains to be seen if somebody picks up on Mesquite. But there's always another case, unfortunately, of a gun in a school that's bound to come out, Drew.
How about well, first of all, Fleccas, can you plug your socials, your Richard Ratboy's socials, your podcast? Where can we find you?
Yep. Fleccas Talks on YouTube, Fleccas, at Fleccas on Instagram and Twitter. And then Richard Ratboy is at Richard Ratboy on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Very, very active chat. If you subscribe to Richard Ratboy's, the Rat Chat is where it's at.
Yeah.
And all that rhymes. Yeah, it definitely rhymes. John, do we have any reviews that you can read?
Yes, I have some reviews. We should have read these at the beginning of the show instead of that nonsense about cigarettes. Think about how many people we turned off praising the virtues of tobacco, or we could have praised the virtues of us. This is a 5-star rating from Shar Watchmaker, hearkening back to the time where people's last names were simply what they did. Well, I may just be a patrol officer. I realize that my experience level with policing will stagnate if I don't branch out and learn other aspects of the job. That's why I listen to Comm Center, so I can absorb some knowledge from Drew and John that I wouldn't otherwise get. Thank you guys for what you do for first responders. Thank you for thanking me. You know, it's so nice to hear that from a cop. Normally I'm like just getting some kind of attitude or being told that the first name is Jeffrey common spelling or something like that. There's always something like mildly irritating happening. So we appreciate you for leaving a 5-star rating and review. I encourage everyone who's listening to do that because I've got some more, but I'm going to like spread them out. But I need more ratings and reviews. So do that because it enriches me personally, but it also helps the podcast. So go out there, leave a 5-star rating and review. Let them people know why you like the Comm Center. And we would appreciate more of that. You can also leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. There we go. There's the little graphic. That's what I was waiting for. Thanks, Dewey. Drew, before I play the voicemail, also our socials are, if someone wants to reach out to you, they can reach you at What Say Drew.
Yeah, What Say Drew on Instagram.
You can reach me at difficult to look at pictures if you wanted to reach out to me personally, or you can reach out to either one of us at the Comm Center on there. Make sure you're following, subscribing, hit the notification bell, do everything you're supposed to do for a podcast. We tell you every single time and you never do it. So go out there and do all the stuff you're supposed to do for a podcast. I'm tired of explaining it to you. You know what to do. You know how to support us.
We're all adults here.
Stop endorsing slavery by not monetizing this podcast. Okay, so we have a voicemail here. I'll go ahead and play it now.
Hey, Comm Center, this is Micah. It's been a while since I left you guys a message. I figured I'd call and resolve that issue. Do you guys happen to know what kind of flour orphans use?
Fleccas, do you know what kind of flour orphans use to bake bread? Drew's got it.
I don't. I'm so glad I don't.
All right, I'll just keep playing it.
Make bread. Self-raising flour. All right, guys. I'll catch you on the next Comm Center. We'll see you then.
Oh, well, thank God our streak is alive of making fun of children who don't have parents. John, do you have anything else?
I just want to say that voicemail was tasteless. To the person who sent it to us, shame on you. And call me later. We need to catch up. Everybody, thanks for listening to the Comm Center. We appreciate you. This is the show where we break down 911 audio and talk cop response. We'll be here next week with you, possibly having a live show coming up. Thanks to everybody who was in our live after show next week. We'll be doing more live after shows, possibly even more bonus content coming up. We thank you guys for appreciating us. Again, if you want to leave us a voicemail, 848-COMM911. That's 848-266-6911. Thank you so much for watching the Comm Center. And, we hope that Comm Center lasts for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of Comm Center, Drew.
100 episodes. Here we go.
100 episodes of Comm Center.
Emmanuel Lewis, as far as you know.
Ray Stevens.
Thurman Thomas.
Eugene Marv.
Cornelius